go and see a little bit of the world, even for a short time.
I do want to know when the political bug bit you.
People need to know the truth.
Look, it was a great example of showing people the power of networking.
Meeting people that you otherwise would have never met.
Yeah.
It's like being tied to a train track and seeing the train coming and you can't do anything about it. Dad was 62. He hadn't even retired. Do what you want to do when you've got time and love your loved ones.
Let's have a cup of tea, dig in the dirt, get sunshine.
They call me the witch doctor, so Mum's got a remedy for everything. Believe in yourself. You're everything you need to be.
Hello everyone, my name's Graham Strang and I hope my younger self is listening. We're on to episode 22 and I have a very fantastic guest with me. She wears many hats. Hope you get this right. She's a nurse, she's a law student, a mum of 5, community advocate, political candidate or former political candidate, and the one of 2 of the absolutely fantastic TLC for TRC. Welcome, Kirstie.
Thank you very
Welcome to the
much.
show.
Thank you very much. It's really exciting to be here. And I'll just go back to my many hats there. A nurse. I'm not a nurse. I'm an assistant in nursing and I'm a student nurse. I was a nurse. So I was a registered nurse for 15 years, but I haven't worked as a registered nurse for over 20. So I'm redoing my Bachelor of Nursing at the moment. I just wanted to clarify that.
I don't know how you do that.
And I'm not a law student anymore. I've graduated.
You've graduated. So I'm just going to take both of them, flip them over the top of each other, and onward we go, peoples. She was right, I was wrong. It's time.
Small points.
Small points. So we're going to start on some of your background and influences. So you grew up in Toowoomba, which I actually know where that is. They had a BNS once upon a time, many moons ago.
Did they?
In the 90s.
Oh, there you go. I was probably there.
Yeah, I think we're probably.
But I obviously don't remember.
and look, a small country town in northern Victoria. What was it like? What was it like growing up in a small country town in the middle of nowhere?
You know what? I loved that question. I love it because you don't go back often.
No.
And it was really nice to be able to go back and really think about that. And what did I think about my childhood? And I can honestly say with reflection that my childhood was extraordinary. Growing up in a small country town, walking to school with my siblings and my friends and walking home, unsupervised, knowing everybody, riding our bikes around the town. My parents had the local RGA. So I worked there as well. So you can imagine on top of that, everyone knew me.
Were you paid?
Probably a small amount.
With love.
With love.
Yeah.
I wasn't allowed to start work until I could prove to my father that I could write my 9s around the right way. Because back in those days, we wrote 9 cents on the dog food tin. Yeah, there you go. Showing my age. But very, I would nearly say, idealistic. It was just beautiful.
Like I come from Winton, Western Queensland, and one of the things I remember is the community side of those small towns. That's what provided my base for what we do now. Do you find that whole influence of your parents and that town community set a lot of your thought process now?
Oh, absolutely. And again, on reflection, and this is what I love about being asked these questions, it's very obvious to me now looking back. I said my parents had the RGA and we had another business as well, and they were fully involved. They were in every group, club, Dad sponsored everything, all the footy clubs, the what have you. They were fully involved, and so were my grandparents, who also lived in Toowoomba. And so I really had no choice but to be a community player.
If you look at Jamie Lee here, the amount of barbecue photos coming up on Facebook with me when she was about this tall, there wasn't much option about whether she was coming to help at her barbecue or not. She was just
exactly,
you were just there.
and I was the same. And I think I'm hoping that that's the legacy that I can leave to my children as well, because I just think it's fantastic to be able to get into a community and be what I call a full player, team player.
If you had to think of one memory that really stands out to you in that time, what would it be?
It would be riding my bike on a Saturday morning to the netball courts and spending the whole morning there, watching everyone else, playing myself, seeing everybody, and then crossing the road to the footy field and doing the same thing as the AFL was on. So in Victoria, you played netball and then you went and watched the footy, and that was just every weekend, and that's a huge memory for me.
And it's hard when you go back to small town, your small hometown, because you almost feel like you're 12 again.
Oh, definitely. And I was there not long ago, and you're absolutely right. And I could see, and we were actually at a function at the footy ground, and I could see the kiosk across the other side of the oval, and it has not changed.
No.
And I could see the women who were working there, the ones who worked there every single
Some of them
Saturday.
probably still are.
And you'd go and get your pie or your sausage roll or your what have you. And yeah, it took me right back.
And then you turned 13 and went to boarding school.
Yeah, I did.
Talk
yes.
about flipping life.
And not really telling too many family secrets, but my elder sister, that was never on the cards for us, but my elder sister was so naughty that my parents, in desperation, sent her to boarding school in Melbourne. And I thought this was a fabulous thing, not because I wanted Fiona to leave, but because I knew, well, maybe that would be on the cards for me too. I wasn't naughty, but I was so excited. Didn't know where it was or anything much about it then, but loved it, got down there. Adventure.
Adventure. Look, it's a wonderful thing. Like, boarding school for me was very lonely for the first couple of years until I got into the older grades. Did it take you much to adjust from having the freedom of the country town to then going to a place with 1,000 rules?
Probably not. I just changed the way I associated. And look, I was at every fun fight, and I probably was a bit naughty in those days. I was often being caught in someone else's room, or talking too much or not doing my homework, and that was I still maintained my freedom, I suppose.
Do you have a teacher you remember from boarding school?
I do. I absolutely do. And her name was Miss Fowl, and we used to have jokes.
I was about to say, I've already listed.
We used to have jokes with poor Miss Fowl, and she was our religious instruction teacher, and she was the most beautiful human. She used to go trekking in Nepal every school holidays, and it didn't take much to get her talking about trekking in Nepal. And so she'd start her religious instruction lesson, and then we'd say, just one story. And she'd say, don't do this to me again. We'd just say, well, just one story. But what was the main thing that you ate this time? And off she'd go. Whole lesson.
Gone.
Talking about trekking in Nepal, and the bell would go and she'd say, you've done it to me again.
So how did you go from bush kid, boarding school, adventuring to... was it nursing you went into first?
I did, yes. Went into nursing because really in those days, we're talking mid-80s, I was informed that, that's what girls do. You either be a nurse or a teacher. I actually had ideas of being a lawyer or an accountant, and I was told that that's probably not a very good career for a girl. You should be a nurse or a teacher.
The world has changed.
Okay, well, I'll sign up for nursing. My grandmother was a pharmacist. I had spent a bit of time with her in the Goulburn Valley Base Hospital, so I was familiar with hospitals. And when I got my acceptance, you get your offer in the mail. And I remember that very clearly because I was actually at work at my dad's shop, and someone gave me the mail, and I opened it up and I was accepted to Lincoln Institute, which was the nursing school then, and I cried. And it took me a little while to work out why I was crying, and it wasn't from excitement. And I think it was a little bit of losing that adventure, that need for adventure. And I had that feeling of, this is now what I'm going to do. This is it. I'm going to be a nurse. And yeah, it was a sad moment, only for a small while. Because then I started uni, and then there's more people to meet, and share houses.
Hard leaving Dad's business?
And no, not at all. No, back down to
only so many 9-cent cans you can write a price.
Well, I'd been promoted then. You see, I'd been promoted to the deli.
Oh,
yeah,
very flash.
Yeah, very flash.
So, where did you go to uni then?
So uni was, in those days, it was Lincoln Institute of Health Sciences, and we amalgamated with La Trobe Uni. So that was in Melbourne.
Yep.
And I took on student life.
With exceptional grace and enthusiasm.
And I did a little bit of work as well. And I scraped through. Not always, but I got there in the end.
So, would that have been around when you met Harps at some point, I suppose?
Oh, definitely.
Yeah.
Yes. So that's right. We have a
mutual connection.
Have a mutual connection.
For those who don't know, Breaking the Wall is a guy called Andrew Harper, best camel guy in Australia. He taught me as I would have been 18, I think. I don't know who's putting up with me. I got sent as a jackaroo, and then through a Facebook post we worked out that you and him partied together a little bit.
We did, and he was a bit older than me, and I can't quite remember how we met, but he came from Deniliquin, from Denny, and I had friends from Denny. And he was over at our house, not often, but he'd pop in on a Saturday or what have you. And he mentioned this day that he wanted to go and see Bob Dylan. Bob Dylan was coming to play at Kooyong. And he said, and I can't find anyone who wants to go. And I said, oh my goodness, I will go. I love Bob Dylan. He said, great. So we went to the Bob Dylan concert together. There you go.
And he's still wearing the same shorts.
Probably. I don't remember what he was wearing. I remember being absolutely the youngest in the crowd. That was really funny to me.
Amazing. But then you moved from that life, graduating, working in nursing. But law came along.
Well, first of all, I moved to Queensland.
Well, that's a good start.
And that was part of that adventure again. And I sort of got my, need for adventure back and moved to Queensland. And I had completely forgotten about law then. Nursing was my life. I then went to England. I worked in London for a couple of years as a registered nurse.
Tell me you went to the church.
I didn't.
You never went to the church?
I didn't.
You've never had drank with sawdust on the floor. I am disappointed.
No, I'd heard about it. I lived in Earls Court, so I did a little bit of the Australian thing. No, I sort of, it was on my list. I never got there. But
the most inebriated night of my life was with a Welsh rugby team in the church in London. I was speaking Welsh by the end of it. It was great.
Sure you were.
But it's amazing how what you're doing now to what you're doing then, and the travel, and that's why I encourage anyone who hasn't dove into full-time studying things to get on a plane, go somewhere, do something. It just changes your whole outlook on life.
I came back to Australia. I would have been in my, I was 26 or 27, and I remember thinking very clearly that every young person in Australia should travel and go and see a little bit of the world, even for a short time, and come back to realise what we have here and how absolutely blessed we are in this country. So lucky, so lucky. And I hope that all my children will have the same experience. And I think it was profound for me.
No,
absolutely profound.
I flew not long after September 11, and I always remember my mum didn't sleep the entire 23 and a half hours of the flight because she was so worried something was going to happen. And I can remember getting into Kuala Lumpur, and there were so many people with machine guns bigger than me. And all of a sudden, that was my profound moment, was actually landing there and going, oh, this is not a safe place.
And was that your first time overseas? And that's, I have a memory, my first landing was Athens. And I thought that, actually, I did land in Bangkok or somewhere, but didn't leave the airport. But landing in Athens, I had this vision of going to this most beautiful place. You know, you'd seen it in all the picture books.
Yeah.
And I got there and it was not...
Not the same.
No, it was nothing like I'd imagined, and I was quite horrified.
See, that was London for me. I went to London thinking this amazing place, and then all of a sudden, like, this place needs a bath.
A lot of it needs a bath.
Ours needs a bath. Jamie Lee went there the same thing 20 years later and said, geez, London needs a clean.
There you go. It hasn't changed.
We have digressed slightly. But that's okay.
Sorry.
No, don't say sorry, because we're getting towards where law comes in. We've just got to get through all the travel and the adventures first.
Well, then I landed back in Queensland, and again, I don't think I'd thought of it again, Graham. And married, children, took on that part of my life. Again, more adventure. Children, what could be more adventurous?
The biggest challenge you'll ever take on.
Absolutely. And so beautiful and so amazing. And I was very fortunate to be able to be fully involved and PNFs and everything else and all the sport. And so it wasn't really until after that I thought, you know, when I was thinking, what now? What's coming next? I always had plans for something next, and that's when the law popped into my head, and I thought, I'm going to have to revisit that now. I've learnt a lot about my own ability and what I hopefully am able to do. So I applied for my 50th birthday. That was the present I gave myself, an application to law at university. There you go.
But isn't it amazing? That's what I keep saying, and I say to anyone young, I said, the adventure doesn't stop. And what you do in early life will actually help you what you do in your future, but it might be absolutely 1,000% different to where you started, because nursing and law have got nothing to do with each other.
No, I've tried to find those similarities, and there's not many. And yet I loved my nursing career, and I need to say that, because when I was telling you that I cried, that was only momentarily, and I think, like I said, it was about adventure, but going into nursing, I loved it. You know, I was fully committed, loved my career.
How do you feel your nursing prepared you for law?
Oh, hugely. And that is about relating to people, and also relating to all sorts of people. You know, you choose your friends, you're with your family, and then you choose your friends, and you choose those people because you've got things in common with them. With nursing, you're exposed to everybody, the huge cross-section, and you're getting up close and personal with people that you would have never had a conversation with in your life. And I think with law, that's when you start to understand that huge variety of people that we live with in this planet.
Do you have a favourite nursing memory?
Oh.
I'll ask you lots of these little points.
Oh, gosh.
And Bob Dylan doesn't count.
I have a few. What would be my my favourite, I probably can't think. Let me think about that.
We can come back to it.
We might have to
You can pick one.
We might have to come back to that.
Which is, you're going to have to answer that about law and politics at some point.
Okay.
If we've talked law, we've talked nursing, and politics is going to be part of it, because there's a whole range of stuff there. I do want to know when the political bug bit you. There's got to be something in there, because I've looked at politics and I've run screaming. So what was
definitely it was. I can honestly say it was Bob Brown and the damming of the Franklin River in Tasmania. And I can't think of the year, but I wasn't very old. I might have been an early teenager.
Yep.
And there were protesters on the television, and they were chaining themselves to trees. They were wanted to stop the damming of the Franklin River. And I'm thinking I've got the names of the river correct. And I remember thinking, good on them. Good on them. I'd like to be down there chaining myself to a tree. I like the big trees. And no, we don't want to swamp the valley. And my father was standing there, and he's looking at the news, and he says, "Oh, bloody greenies." And I thought silently,
I was actually waiting for that.
I must be a greenie. Oh, that's interesting. So that's been in the back of my mind. I knew that I was a wannabe activist. And I think it reared its head again during the Children Overboard incident, where the Howard government had accused refugees, asylum seekers, of deliberately throwing their children into the ocean to be rescued themselves. And I remember holding one of my own little babies at the time, thinking, what a crock. What an absolute crock. That is not true. I know it's not true. And I think that then I really developed a need to put the truth out there. People need to know the truth. And I don't want to be lied to. I don't want to be told nonsense by my politicians. And I think it grew from there. It absolutely grew from there.
So, look, we've covered law, we've covered politics, we've covered nursing, we've covered Bob Dylan. In Toowoomba, where you have some fantastic things you've done. One of my favourites is TLC for TRC with your great mate Emma. Born during COVID. You know, I was one of the originals on board. I still think it's a fantastic idea. Where on earth did you two get the idea that this was a good idea?
Well, I think it was born out of necessity, like so many things. And the shops were, everyone was locking down.
Yep.
We were all trying to work out how on earth businesses were going to survive, including our own. And so my husband's building business. And Emma went down the street this day, and she went to Photo Pro down in Ruthven Street, Kerwin Ross, who does fabulous work with photographs. And she was getting some work done, and Kerwin was very concerned. And he said, if there's no one about, with these lockdown, I'm not going to survive. And Emma got home, and she was quite distressed, and she rang me and said, do something. I said, okay. What did you have in mind that I do? And she said, well, you're good on social media. You've already got some sort of presence. Just do something. She said, what about a hashtag? And I thought, a hashtag? Right, I know what that is, but I have no idea how to create a hashtag. And I said, what do you think this hashtag should say? And she said, oh, just loving the community and or something like that. And she reeled off a few things. I said, okay. I said, leave it with me. And so I thought, well, I don't know how to start a hashtag, but I do know how to start a Facebook group. So I started a Facebook group and I called it hashtag because I was being a bit smart because Emma had said, start a hashtag. And TLC, I think we both concocted, there were words that she'd put in and then words that I'd suggested, and I had just put them all together. So it was TLC, which was already taken, as you can imagine, for TRC, so the Toowoomba Regional Community. And I know it's very long-winded now, but we had no idea what it would grow to be. And so our first post, or my first post, well, it was a picture of Kerwin in front of his photo pro shop that Emma had sent me. And I basically said something like, tell us about your favourite shop, or Kerwin can still do your photographs via email, etc. Tell us about your favourite shop that you want to see supported during these lockdowns, or something like that. And off it went. I think I invited maybe 50 of my friends to join, and then we were making a post saying, oh, there's 200 members on our group. Isn't that great? Oh, there's 400 members. Oh, there's 1,000. And then there's 2,000. And then it was like, oh my goodness, now where are we going? And we made up the rules that it was not self-promotion, that it was all positive, that we wouldn't allow anything negative. This was all about helping and supporting. And we sort of just pulled in all those little rules and off it went. And here it is 5 years later.
What I loved through that period, and I did it taking the idea from someone else, but there was a whole team of people who every day were posting about somewhere they'd been.
Yes, absolutely.
It just amazed me. It was just like, I grabbed a coffee from here, I've got my lunch from here. And for hospo, it was fantastic. Because we didn't have the delivery services either. A lot of them were still figuring that stuff out. I got my lunch through the hole in the wall here, and that was what I loved about it, especially in the hospo side, because it gave all those little places such a chance to say, well, we are actually still operating.
It did, and it opened people's eyes to different businesses in this region that they'd had no idea.
Well, I used the coffee shop thing because everyone was posting about coffee shops, or they tagged someone. So I remember my morning coffee. I'd be driving to the top of the range to go and find this hole in the wall place just to say, well, this is what it is. That was my whole motto.
And then people would follow, and this was what was so brilliant about it. And like I said, I had no idea what it would become and how valuable it would be.
What did you learn about Toowoomba out of that?
Oh, well, I learnt that, there's that classic saying about, I can't think of what the saying is now. Build it and they'll come. That's exactly what it is. And that's basically what we did. And here were then all these people piling on because they wanted to help too. And so we actually gave people a vehicle to jump on board, and it was that Help the Community vehicle. And I have to say there too, Graham, that's how Tony's Community Kitchen Facebook group came about. And it was actually through TLC. And, Tony was a small operator at the time. He'd been working in the community forever and doing a brilliant job, but it was very difficult. And we started off that page through TLC because someone wanted to help feed people on it for a Sunday lunch, and off it went.
Well, it was a great example of showing people the power of networking. Because
100%.
Networking just isn't in person. And it was just amazed me watching these complete strangers even Tony was a classic case because he started, I think he was about the only one you let self-promote in there because he did a few little things in there where he said, I'm looking for this or I need that. I think I bought a big pile of bamboo forks off the top of my head because he needed them, but then people were chipping in for him to help the kitchen and that sort of stuff. And that's the bit I remember with that networking side is people were binding together on that, but there were strangers who were going, we will help put that together to help that person over there because they were able to communicate. But if you look on from networking, you like networking, we both know is so important if you want to grow your profile, build a business, whatever it might be, in Toowoomba especially. If you were going to give someone some advice for networking, what would you tell someone about building themselves up to be able to go and stand in a room of strangers and say hello?
Oh, gosh. That comes back down to, lessons learnt from long ago that you have nothing to lose and we're actually all the same. And people say to me, a lot will ask me, how can you do that, especially with politics? How can you just turn up somewhere and talk to people and, turn up on your own? And I say, we're all the same. Everyone's got reservations. Everyone's got nerves. Fake it till you make it. And then you realise, after you've done it a few times, you realise that the sky's not going to fall in. Just get out there and do it.
If you take the fake away, all of a sudden you find your people.
Absolutely. You don't have to fake it then. You don't have to be nervous. And I'm at this stage now, and I wasn't always like that. That, I look forward to going into a room of strangers and having a chat and meeting people I've never spoken to before.
I look at your political life. Look how far out of your zone you had to get to do all that.
I did. Yes, I did. And that's one of the best things about that whole experience was, again, and I said that about nursing, was meeting people that you otherwise would have never met in your life.
And the amount of people you gave a voice to, that's where I think politics gets lost at times. At times, it's not about the win, it's actually about giving a voice.
Absolutely. And for me, it was never about the win. I had something to say and something to put forward to the community. And it was all about, justice or, for our community, I suppose. The lack of housing was number one. And, that was my voice. I wanted to say it. And, the train. We need a train.
We need a train. More nurses.
More nurses.
I remember that one.
I had a lot to say. And it was a fantastic vehicle to be able to say that.
And you look and what you combine your nursing profile, and then you combine that with your political profile, then TLC for TRC, and owning your own business. All of a sudden, your profile is like that. There's not too many places you don't go where someone goes, "Hello."
That's true, and sometimes I find it hard to remember in what context. I might see someone and think, I know that I've had a conversation with you, but I cannot remember in what context. Was it nursing or was it my student life or was it politics? And we usually work it out.
Yeah, it's interesting. Well, that's the beauty about it. Talk to people. You can just look at them and say, look, I can't remember. Yeah. Where do I know you from?
And I'm absolutely fine with saying that now, Graham. I think I say it a lot because I have done a lot. And like you said, it comes full circle, and there's a number of people that we cross paths with in different lives.
It's amazing where we go. Now move on to some of the more not as fun stuff. We get to talk about your father and some of the emotional change for you about him and his cancer and how that went. Can you talk us through that period of the?
Yeah, definitely. That was. That probably did shape my life in a big way. Hardest thing I've definitely ever had to do, and I hope that I never have to do something like that again, although I would in a heartbeat. Dad was 62 when he was, or 61 when he was diagnosed with pancreatic cancer. Background here for me, Graham, was that my last, or one of my last jobs as a registered nurse was as a clinical nurse at St Vincent's Hospital, St Luke's ward, which was then their medical palliative care.
Yep.
And I loved palliative care. And you're basically nursing people to death and allowing them to have the best death possible. It's not for everybody. Dignity, pain-free, and we're also talking about family members, very important, and friends, everybody involved. And so that was my profession. And when Dad rang me to tell me that he was ill with pancreatic cancer, I'd never heard of pancreatic cancer, and I thought, well, how on earth can I have never have heard of it? People don't live very long with pancreatic cancer. It's by the time you're getting symptoms, it's well spread.
And you're already in trouble.
Yes. So Dad only lived for another 8 months after his diagnosis. Yeah. And so I describe it like, and anyone who's been through it will understand what I'm saying. It's like being tied to a train track and seeing the train coming and you can't do anything about it. Dad wanted to die at home. He's a very proud man. He did not want to die in hospital. He wanted to die at home. And I said, well, I will do that for you. So I took my 1-year-old, I left my 4-year-old and my 2-year-old up here with Paul, my wonderful husband, and I took Rosie and we went down to Toowoomba, and the doctor set up the IV, and I don't know how it happened, but it wouldn't happen in these days, but I had a cupboard full of morphine and the doctor's orders, and off I went. And I said to him that I would look after him until I couldn't. And he said, well, when will that be? And I said, when you're unconscious and I need 2 people. I won't be able to look after you on my own. And he said, well, I won't know about it then, will I? And I said, no, you won't. He said, well, there we go. So the Saturday night, we sat up in his bed and watched Bombers, Essendon Bombers, his favourite team, win against Port Adelaide, I think. So we had a great night, and he went to sleep that night and he didn't wake up, and he died on Sunday afternoon. So I was able to basically nurse him to death at home, surrounded by family, friends, neighbours, and it was traumatic as it was beautiful. And I feel very, very privileged to have had that experience.
You probably got a little closer experience than a lot of family members do, because they get pushed because things have to be done.
Yeah, yeah.
How did that shape your view on family and time spent?
Dad was 62. He hadn't even retired. He had retirement plans. And I think that that changes your, I was mid-30s, I'm thinking at that time, and changed my perspective on living life. I was already one for living life to the full, but even more so after that. Do what you want to do when you've got time, and love your loved ones.
I'm going off my mum and Tila, who both say they think about their dad still every single day. Would that be accurate?
I think of my father probably, I don't know how many times a week, certainly during winter every weekend, because I look up when the Bombers are playing. And any time that they are, I think of my father. I think of him a lot, and that's been 20 odd years now. I think he's definitely still there. I talk to him.
Yeah, it's all right. I still talk to my grandmother. I know all about
There
that.
you go.
I don't know if they're listening, but I believe they are.
I do too.
Did it provide you many challenges post that about going back to normal, going back to work, coming home?
Well, the interesting thing about that, Graham, was that I came back to Toowoomba, and Paul had come down for the last month or so with my other daughters, and that was wonderful, and we were all in the house together. But then we came back to Toowoomba, and we brought my mum because Mum couldn't spend time in the house in Tatura without my father. So we brought Mum back with us, and after about 6 months, I said to my husband, I'm not depressed, but I don't think I could go back to work in palliative care now. I'm just not sure whether I'd be able to do the job as well as I had done. But what I do think is that I need another baby. I said, I need some happiness in my life. And Paul just said, okay. And we had Fred. And Fred being our first boy
And
after 3 daughters,
Yeah.
I was horrified. I thought, what have I done? This poor little bugger, he's got 3 older sisters to henpack him. He'll be spoilt. He needs a brother. And then my husband's like, what? And there we had George. So I certainly don't believe that we would have our 2 sons if Dad was still alive. So that was his gift to us.
Fascinating how I'm not a big religious person, but I'm a bit of a universe person. How the universe goes, we're just going to balance this out a little bit and see where we go.
And can I just say that Freddie, who's now 20, he's very like my father.
Annoyingly so at times.
Beautifully so. Just a beautiful soul. A beautiful soul.
So Nova drives Teela Spare because she reckons she's going to be a carbon copy of me.
Oh, there you go.
Good luck. You've gone through all this load, but you've talked about everything you've done with the adventure, the study, children, loss. Even your mother living with you is a different load in itself.
Definitely.
They always talk about work-life balance. How have you balanced the emotion, the stress, it all to make it all work? I know Paul's been a huge part of it, and he's a very lovely man, and you're very lucky. You're very lucky.
I am.
But it can't have all been simple.
Oh, Graham, I thought about this a lot. And I, again, with reflection, and that's another thing I've worked out about myself, that I've often and always self-reflected. I see everything as an experience. I see everything as a positive experience. I'm a sharer.
Yeah.
I share everything. I talk and I mull it over, and if I feel I've made a mistake, it doesn't get me down. I use it as the learning curve that I needed. So I think I'm naturally a very positive person, and I find the good in everything. So I don't think anything gets me down much.
So would that be how you would say you practice resilience, so that you can build the walls and the tools to be able to work with it?
Oh, definitely. And I think I've done that subconsciously through my life.
Well, you look at mental health. Mental health is a very curly beast at the best of times, because it whacks people differently at different times in their lives. But I do have a sentence here from him that says, have a cup of tea, dig in the dirt, get sunshine. I need to know your mental health, a breakdown of that sentence.
My children, so funny. They were talking about it even last night. they called me the witch doctor. So Mum's got a remedy for everything. And that is definitely what I would say to them, you know, when they would, you know, come to me if they had a headache or they were feeling sad or someone had said this to me at school or what have you. It's a right cup of tea. I'd always get a cup of tea. And if they were feeling down, yes, 15 minutes of sunshine, I'd send them outside. And digging in the dirt, for me, is about building a resilience to bacteria, really. But I think it's more than that. It's about connecting with the earth and connecting with nature. And, you know, I love my garden. I'm a big gardener. And, yeah, they're the three things. Yeah.
So my grandmother, when I was growing up, they had their house in Longreach, and then they owned a block about 50 metres up on the right, and that was their veggie garden.
Yeah.
So it was 600 square metres of veggie garden.
Oh, beautiful.
So my grandmother would take me up there, take all of us kids up there, but I was the eldest. But, you know, it was picking snow peas, carrots, things. And literally, she would take you into the dirt, and, I mean, you'd come home a whole different shade because you were covered in everything. But that was her space to go, because in there, the world was a simple place.
And I think that that's nearly was my motto without knowing it at the time, was bringing the kids back, and with that it brought myself back to just the grassroots, the simple things like a cup of tea.
Yeah.
And Fred was saying to me a couple of nights ago, and one of them, George actually made me a pot of tea, and my favourite tea is called Lapsang Souchong.
I'm not going to try and repeat that.
And it's a smoked tea.
Yeah.
And Twinings made it. It was actually Winston Churchill's favourite tea.
Yeah.
And I was introduced to Lapsang Souchong when I was in London. And I've always had it since. And Fred said to me, Mum, if there's a memory from my childhood, it's the smell of that tea. And I thought, how beautiful that something so homely and so lovely.
I love how through everything you've talked about that you keep rewarding yourself with memories.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, absolutely. So many there.
Absolutely. And I'm watching your mental health and the resilience and these stories, everything you've told me so far, you keep bringing me back to certain memories of things. And it's almost, that's that dig in the dirt, get some sunshine and have a cup of tea.
Yeah. I have bad memories too.
Yeah.
But I choose not to go back there. Like I said, I've moved on from them and use them as a learning tool, and that's it. Yeah.
According to a note here, you discovered late in life that daydreaming and spelling ability aren't measures of intelligence. I have to know what you mean by that.
I was the ultimate daydreamer at school, and I couldn't spell for nuts.
Yep.
And my grammar was also pretty ordinary. And in those days, and you know, unfortunately, it probably still happens now. You get everything. You get not yelled at. Well, we probably were yelled at. I probably was yelled at to stop daydreaming and get back to work. And you'd get your work back with big red circles all over it. And so I was sure that going through school, as I've alluded to, I didn't take it too seriously, and I played up quite a bit because I really didn't think that I was very intelligent. And this had, again, it's with reflection, and I used to sometimes wonder why I couldn't do what other kids could do. But it all came back down, you know, to my thought process, and again, being accepted into nursing, this is all I can do.
Yep.
And I wish that I'd known back then that those things are not about intelligence. Yeah. And it's actually been a couple of my children that have taught me that lesson. And so I really, really dislike it when the school system still does that to children, because it's probably more signs of, I mean, daydreaming, you know, is well known now as signs of some sort of ADHD, and so is the ability to spell. So with some kids, that was probably me. I'll never know, but I think it held me back.
If you could go back and tell your 18-year-old self one sentence.
One sentence. Have more self-belief. In the context that I think we as humans, and especially as kids growing up, as I've just alluded to, you're comparing yourself constantly with other people. There's someone that's always smarter, has more ability, has more than you, and it keeps you down. And I would go back to my 18-year-old self and say, believe in yourself. You're everything you need to be.
Well, I'm going to flip it around again. If your 18-year-old self was looking at you right now, what would surprise her the most?
Oh, God. The fact that I have 5 children, I think. That was never on my radar. Absolutely never. That would be the one thing, I think. And perhaps, well, you know, I do have to expand on that too. Perhaps having a law degree. I really didn't think that was possible. I think she'd sit there going, what?
That's not what we do.
That's not, no. We're meant to be nurses and teachers.
Well, the next thing we're talking about is learning the hard way. I always have hard way lessons. And one of my notes in here is one of your biggest regrets is not studying law earlier.
Yeah, there you go. So that all ties in, doesn't it? And I learnt that. When I say the hard way, I found it difficult to think of something that I've learnt the hard way, because I'm happy to learn everything the hard way. Like I said, it's all a learning experience for me, and I'll take the positives out of that. And every difficult experience is a good one if you learn from it. So, I wouldn't go back and do things differently, because it means that then I wouldn't have been nursing. I wouldn't have travelled the world with that. I probably wouldn't have ended up in Queensland. I wouldn't have then met my husband. You know, your path is your path. And everything has consequences. So
Action has consequence, good or bad.
Yeah, absolutely.
My grandmother coming to the fore on that one.
So I think probably learning that the hard way, it took me a while to get to it. That's probably what I meant by that.
I'm going to add 2 bits in here I haven't written. The hard way. What was the hardest lesson you learned in politics?
The hardest lesson I learnt was probably how difficult it is to, actually impossible it is to show your real self. I felt that I was constantly being judged, and that was really difficult. And I'd feel myself saying, no, that's not me. No, wouldn't do that. Or, you know, and I'm talking about, oh, you're just a liar. You're like all of them. You do this, you do that. You're a teal.
Yeah.
What have you. And I found that difficult because I was constantly wanting to defend myself. So it took me a while to actually sit back and get it that you can't do that as a politician. You have to wear all of that. You have to deflect it. and just be confident that you're doing the best you can, or that I was doing the best that I could to portray exactly who I was.
And knowing a bit of the story of your politics, especially this last one, you've done exceptionally well and not let any bitterness creep in, because you've done better than most, because
there was a lot flying around.
It was. Yeah. I think your daughter and I were probably angrier at them than you were.
Well, it was, yes, thank you. It was, there's a lot of nastiness.
Yeah.
And, that took me by surprise too. I have to say.
I think it took everyone by surprise.
But, it takes all sorts in this world.
Yeah.
And that was a good lesson. Yeah.
What's a good positive you've taken from politics?
Back to the people, meeting the people, knocking on people's doors and meeting people. Well, everyone in this room, meeting people that I would have, never have met, and drawing out other things from people. For example, a number of, women in particular had said to me and continue to say to me, congratulations, amazing, whatever happened, I now feel more confident to be able to stand up and say things because I've seen what you've done. And I think, wow, I'm really happy about that.
People talking to me about starting podcasts and things and why I'm doing it. Jack and I have had many of these conversations with us side of the camera. You probably understand almost the best of anyone I know the ability that if you affect one person, you've actually won.
Definitely, that's your win.
Absolutely.
Yes, it's your win. I have many wins, and I do say that a lot as one of my sayings as well. And TLC for TRC, I was in the lift at St Vincent's Hospital one day. It had been going for a couple of years, and there was a lady in there with a tea trolley or a dinner trolley delivering, and she looked at me and she said, "Are you the lady who runs TLC for TRC?" And I said, "I am." I said, "Oh, you're clever to recognise me." And she said, "I know your face." She said, "Can I tell you?" She said, "I obviously work here at the hospital." She said, "My husband is a very hard worker. He's a cleaner, and we rely on his business to run our lives." And she said, "We were really going backwards." And she said, "It's got to the stage now, though, that every time someone's asking for a good cleaner, whether it be outside maintenance or inside cleaning the house, and he is suggested, he gets a job." She said, "It's changed our life." And I sat there in the lift just thinking, oh my goodness, I'm happy. Whatever happens from now, I'm happy, And I couldn't wait to ring Emma and just say, this has just happened to me, and how amazing. I feel really privileged to have had the opportunity to do that for somebody, and a stranger.
I just love your positivity and the pride you bring it all. You do better than most. Speaking better than most, we're now on to the book.
Oh, okay.
Joe is waiting for you in here.
All right.
So you get to open the book, you get to read out the question, and then you get to respond to it.
Okay.
And then get to write your question in after.
Oh,
sorry, Trudy, sorry.
Trudy.
Go, Trudy Joe. If you're from around here, chances are you've had something embroidered, print or pressed by us. And if you haven't, come look us up.
If you had a magic wand, what would you change about yourself? Oh, Trudy. If I had a magic wand, what would I change about myself? I would... Gosh, Trudy, I honestly don't know whether I would want to change one thing about myself. And if anything, I would use that magic wand to make sure I continued being my authentic self. Keep me on track. That's what I would do. Stop me from, those little times that you waver and think you might.
You know when to do something.
You might do something else or be like someone else or want to be like someone else. No, it would keep me authentic.
Well, that was a really good question and a really good answer.
It was a really good question. Well, I'd give myself a little bit more time. I think I'm thinking now at 58 and I've just, started my law career and about to finish my nursing for the second time. I've got a number of careers I need to get on with and, I need time.
Time is our greatest enemy.
It is. Health. I would make sure I was, there you go. I would get rid of my lactose intolerance. That's what I would do. Yes, which makes me sneeze, by the way. Yes, hence my lactose-free coffee. I have lactose and I sneeze. Yeah. So, weird, I know.
I must remember to set you up sometime.
It's true. And so it means that I have a hard time with cheese and things like that I like. So I have to then take a Zyrtec. Or sometimes drinking wine will make me sneeze. So I have to take drugs to drink. Yeah.
That is not a bad combination. So now you get to write your name and your question.
Right. I didn't like my question.
That's what I think. I figured you might want to come up with another one.
What did I write? Ugh. That's boring.
Just for everyone's information, this was...
That must have been...
What is your idea of solving the city's parking problems?
I needed a wine, didn't I? That was last night. I must have been wanting to go to bed. Okie doke.
Done. And that's us. What have you got coming up? What do people need to know that you're doing?
Oh, gosh. Starting my PLT, professional legal training. Yes. So when you've done a law degree, you don't become a lawyer. You become a lawyer after you've done your professional legal training. So that's what's coming up for me, and I am incredibly excited about it.
Yeah, fantastic.
Next adventure.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for being and watching and taking part in The Hard Way. If you're looking to watch it, you can watch it on YouTube. You can find and listen to it on Apple and on Spotify. Apart from that, have a good night. Thank you.
Thank you for having me.
That's all right. And we're done.